L.A. Marzulli.
Daniel Ott, how are you, Captain?
Man, I'm doing all right, man. Doing all right. How you doing lately?
I'm doing good. We're back on the land in California.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
interesting. And me and Susan's really happy for you, man, because I know that you felt that you always wanted to get back to there, and here your dreams come true. You are back.
yep, I built a house and at 70 years old.
Hmm.
I built all the doors and cabinets. I was the
Okay.
general contractor on it, and we're back. So it's really cool. Actually, be 2 years this December.
Hmm. Wow, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you, man. I mean, as far as I go back with you quite a while. I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to L.A. books,
Wow.
we got over time. L.A. We got
Wow.
I mean, this is rapid fire. I said, I'm going to get my L.A. stash out. This is what I call my This is what I call my L.A. stash, and
Wow.
so. Man, it's all good stuff. You just keep create. You are a creator excellence, and you've
Well,
got,
thank you, sir.
and then you've got some new stuff coming out. And tonight, I think we're going to be talking about your latest project, exposing the secret language of the dragon.
Yeah, the crop circle one, correct.
Yeah, crop circles. Now that's very relevant. There's a lot of man. I tell you, there's been a massive uptick in sightings, and UFO activity and orbs. I mean, just you name it. Uh, the supernatural world, I guess we would say, is just kind of cranking up, and we need to be, as Christians, really, we need to be educate ourselves on what's going on and be prepared to answer any man to ask us the question. We're supposed to have the answers, LA, and you know that, and you've been given a lot of the answers as you find them. You never said, "I got the answers." You're a researcher, and you go around and you've found a lot of information that people have just ignored or not able to find for themselves.
And thank you for that. That's exactly. We have 5 films in the ongoing UFO series. Number 6, I'm in post production. That's on cattle mutilations. Number 7, we're also in post production, and that is on the Roswell crash in 1947.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got some real doozy information. Number 8 will be, and we're still filming that. That will be what is the truth? And we go to both sides of the aisle. Right now, the narrative, you talk about this, it's all in the news, and it is. It's everywhere. Last week we had the 2 whistleblowers come out, plus the guy in Vegas. So I mean, it was an unbelievable week
Mm-hmm.
when you think about it. And number 5, which you've got there, is crop circles, the secret language of the dragon. What we see embedded in the fields is advanced geometry. I mean, geometry that's like you have to be a mathematician to really understand what you're looking at. I'm not a mathematician.
Mm-hmm.
So some of this I look at it, I realize I'm astounded by what I see, but I don't appreciate the complex geometry that's embedded in the field. A mathematician, we were speaking at the Prophecy Watchers conference in Orlando a couple of months back, and I presented my material on the crop circles, and this woman came up to me. She teaches math at the college level, collegiate level, and she came up and she said, "L.A." We actually got her on a cell phone video, which is on my YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
L.A. Marzulli. But she said, "There's no way you can do this without a computer." That's what she told me. She said, "There's no way you can create some of the circles, the simple ones, yes, but the complexity of some of the latter ones that you're showing, there's no way you can do it without a computer." And this is what we also see in the mathematics of the mound builders, which is on the trail of a Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
And we see advanced geometry. We see, in some cases, trigonometry, where they're showing the distance between America Stonehenge and Stonehenge, England, going through the alignments at America Stonehenge. Well, to do that, you need to know the curvature of the earth, and you need to be able to triangulate from the air. So now we're looking at stuff that's like, give me a break. Mm-hmm. And we showed that in the films. It's on the trail of a Nephilim number 4 and 5, the Axis Mundi. But we're also showing other parts of that film and let me back up. Once we figured out that there were alignments and the alignments pointed to other sites, it's mind-boggling. So we've got one that we're going to show in probably number 9 of the Alma Trail series. We're actually in post-production on number 8. And number 9 will be, once again, we're going to go back and do a deep dive on the mathematics in the mounds. It's all connected. So I'm talking about the mounds, but I'm also going into crop circles. And in the film, which just blew me away, and I want to thank Jeff Wilson for providing us with the all the snapshots and the drone footage of the mound in Chillicothe. Chillicothe is an ancient site. It's a mound site. The Chillicothe Road goes from Newark, Ohio, down to Chillicothe, and it's thousands of years old. And what's amazing about the crop circle, this is really the tentpole of really what we delve into in the film. So this crop circle appears in a standing field of corn, which is 8 feet tall. You can't make a crop circle in corn that's 8 feet tall. You can't. You can't see 10 feet in front of you, basically, because the corn's really thick. And the corn stalks are really, really thick at the bottom. Mm-hmm. This corn was laid down. No stalks were broken. They were bent. And some of the places in the field, the corn stalks were woven together. That crop circle of corn appears right across from the Chillicothe earthworks. And that is not a coincidence. Also, that crop circle appeared with one of the first Nephilim Mounds Conference. Gary Stearman, Russ Dizdar, Chief Joseph Irwin, and myself were at this conference. And for the first time in thousands of years, we were saying that what you're looking at is not the work of Native Americans, with all due respect to them. This is the work of the dragon. And this is where all the mathematics appear. They appear in all these ancient sites. But with the crop circles, it's the same deal. We also showed David Flynn's incredible work with what's called the crabwood glyph, which happened in England a number of years ago. And Flynn deconstructed all that. We just show it briefly. But once again, it's advanced mathematics. So there's so many lines in the field. Mm-hmm. I think it's 55 lines times the 23 letters, whatever it is. I need to see it in front of me because I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. Mm-hmm. I'm not good with numbers. But what David Flynn does is he shows that there's a correlation between the crabwood glyph, and it's an alien holding a disc. And in that disc are a series of lines. And when you take all this and you start working the math, you wind up with 1947, mm-hmm. the year of the Roswell crash. And when you continue to extrapolate the math, you wind up from where the crabwood glyph is right to Roswell, New Mexico. That's not a coincidence, which is why we call it the secret language of the dragon. Mathematics is embedded in all the ancient sites. The lunar cycle, 18-and-a-half-year Metonic cycle, the lunar cycle is embedded in many of the sites. I mean, it's there. And, people say, well, who cares about the 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle? The next one, the lunar standstill, is in 2025, which is really interesting. And that, of course, will be right over the Great Circle Mound and the Octagon Mound in Newark, Ohio. I hope to be there, God willing, because the Octagon Mound in Ohio is an unequal octagon that encompasses 50 acres. The secret language of the dragon, crop circles, and also embedded in this ancient megalithic site, which is at least 4,000 years old. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be showing, hopefully we'll be there in 2025 when we can film this. Mm-hmm. The lunar standstill is mind-boggling because it comes, if this is the moon, it comes like this. And here's the Octagon Mound. It comes down and just sits right in the center of the octagon before it comes back up again. Wow. So let me get this straight. How would you even know 4,000 years ago that the lunar body, that the moon was on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle? You wouldn't. And the only way to do that is to go out and you look at the moon and you go, well, there's the moon, and you have an observatory. You make a mound or a pile of rocks, and that's your center. And then you look to your left and there's the moon. And so you put a stake in the ground, and when the moon sets, you put another stake in the ground. You do this for about 30 days. So you got about 60 stakes out there, right? And then a 5-day rainstorm comes in, blocks everything out. Can't see the moon. Now you got to start all over. How would one person crunch the data? And how would you even know what year you're in? When you start to track the moon, are you in year 8, year 17, year 1? You don't know. You don't know. Those are great shots of some of the crop circles that we show. There are orbs that are seen over the field. We show us in the film balls of light, which then make the crop circle almost instantaneously. People have had missing time, feelings of euphoria. I mean, all sorts of bizarre stuff. What this does is it ties back into the whole UFO, the ongoing UFO phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And why crop circles seem benign, they're not. Because who's ever doing this moves in those fields with impunity. No one stops them. No one goes, hey, that's my field of wheat or rapeseed. Mm-hmm. What are you guys doing here? That you're taking a tenth of my crop or whatever. That's my profit. What are you doing here? But that never happens. That never happens. There are hoaxes. We talk about that in the film. You can take a board, it's called a stock stomper, with rope. You can take string and stakes and tape measures, and you can create circles in a field of wheat or rapeseed. I get that. We're not disputing that. What makes this incredible in the film is the crop circle, which is very complex. It's the second largest crop circle in the United States ever recorded. And once again, thanks to Jeff Wilson for allowing us to use the footage. And that crop circle is in a field of corn, which is 8 feet tall. So that's why we focus in on that corn crop circle. And it's right across from the mounds. So we were going to call the film Convergence, but that's kind of vague. But there's a convergence. And what we also see in England, where the old Silbury Hill, this ancient megalithic pile of dirt on the Silbury Plain in England, right across from it, huge crop circle, elaborate crop circle. So in my wheelhouse, and we talk about it in the film, there's definitely a connection between the two.
Mm-hmm. As far as the corn stalks being laid over, not broken, and that's the first time, and by the way, that's great, because that's the first time I ever heard somebody use the term weave as in the corn stalks. But the way they're bent over, LA, is it strictly because they want to make this design or communicate this message? Or is it part and parcel of the fact that they don't want to hurt? They have a technology that allows them to bend because they don't want to hurt anything on the earth.
That's what New Agers would say. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to some really wonderful people about this. Let's jump into something more intense: the cattle mutilations. So some people that are researchers in the cattle mutilation phenomena will go, well, why drop the cow back into the field? And so some of the answers from New Age guys, well, they're doing that because they took the animal and, they're just bringing it back now. And I'm going, no, it's nonsense. The currency in the kingdom of the dragon is one of fear. It's always fear-based. Always, always, always. You can't have fear in your mind and faith at the same time. We as human beings, we're one-trick ponies. We're either living in a state of fear or living in a state of faith that the Lord is my guardian. He will guard me from all evil. The Lord guards my life. The Lord guards me as I come and go now and forever. That's walking in faith. Or we go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? That's the kingdom of fear. So what's interesting about this is when you drop that cow back into the field, the farmer comes out, the rancher comes out, and he sees the cow. If you've never seen one, I've seen lots of pictures. I've never seen one in the field. Okay. But when you see one, and this is, we caught to Roy Miller, who lost 16 cattle in 20 years on his ranch. And I said to him, Roy, when you see this, what's your take? He said, well, it's very unnerving and it creates fear. So now the rancher tells his wife. She comes out and looks at it. Now she's afraid. The kids come out. They look at it. They're afraid because it's grisly, because the udders are taken with surgical precision. There's no blood left in the cow. The jaw is completely stripped away. The sex organs are cored out. It's grisly. It's very dark and very disturbing. Finally, they call the sheriff. Sheriff comes out. He calls the vet. Now the sheriff's freaked out. He's afraid because he's going like, am I dealing with a satanic cult here? The veterinarian comes out. He's never seen anything like it. The newspaper guy comes out. They take some photographs. It's in the local paper. It spreads the fear. See how that works? See how that works? This isn't some, benevolent space brothers dropping the cow. This is absolutely deliberate, in your face, saying that we move with impunity, just like the crop circles. We can do whatever we want to do. You can't stop us. And of course, the crop circles, it's like, oh, wow, isn't that a beautiful design? Is it? Is that the good, black hat, white hat type deal?
Well, I like the white hat personally. As you know, LA, I've been doing this show since 2003, and recently I had a guest on that was telling me that he was abducted, and there's some evidence of that. So I don't dismiss anybody that tells me something on the show unless I can prove it directly. I use questions and intelligence, try to apply that to their story, see if it holds water. But then he started going into that, why are they here? Well, they're here because humans are causing climate change. And I thought, wait a minute, our space brothers are concerned we're causing climate change. Okay. Right there, his whole argument just went away, because what I have found over time, that I also find that the aliens don't like us, and this type of guest, the aliens don't like us, the way we handle the planet. They don't like our homelessness problem. They don't like borders. They feel like there should be one government of the whole world. They're just, and then they start to think, wait a minute, these seem to be aligning with a particular political point of view. Strange, the aliens are doing that, isn't it? I'll say, I'll watch out for that. Hey, let me give a shout out to a bunch of people just logged in. Doreen and Smoke and Put Yahweh First, Little Tiger Bear, Edgy, Peter from Australia, 7 Mile Bridge, Believe, Grumpy, Tammy, Auntie Virus, Tony in Louisiana, and Jade, the moderator of the program. All right, speaking of our questions do come in through our chat channel there. So here's a question from our moderator, Jade. It says, LA, can you explain who is the dragon?
The dragon, in the book of Revelation, it talks about Michael and his angels fight with the dragon and his angels. And the dragon and his angels are cast to earth. The dragon, the serpent, the devil, the accuser of the brethren. The dragon is just one of his names. I believe that's what he really looks like, perhaps. That's conjecture on my part. But, the dragon is another name for him. And isn't it interesting that the dragon motif, the serpent motif, we see it all over the globe. Wherever I go and I'm looking at petroglyphs, or I'm looking at the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio or other places, this is what we see. We're constantly looking and seeing the serpent motif, the dragon motif. It's everywhere.
In your latest production, do you talk about Oliver's Castle, the video with the orbs? I believe the orbs are actually making crop circles. That might be one of them.
Yes, and we were in the Crop Circle Museum, which was, if you're at all over in the UK and you're near Wiltshire or Silbury, check out the Crop Circle Museum, because it's an amazing romp. When you go in there, they've got everything is blown up in the very large pictures on the wall, and we show that in the film. And there was Hugh Newman and Francisco Carrera. Hugh Newman, I don't think he needs an introduction. He's all over with the History Channel and everything else, Ancient Aliens. And Francisco Carrera, he's our guide when we're in Portugal and over in Europe, and he's also head of Exopolitics Portugal. And well, we're standing in front of video and pictures, still pictures of the orbs creating the crop circle below. So that's what I'm going with. And we were there actually in the very beginning of the film. Francisco and I got, when Hugh Newman told us of a crop circle that had been recently created in a field. Now, we can't go into the field. It's a farmer's field, but we flew a drone over it, and we show that in the film, and we got some great shots of it.
So we have these crop circles, and we have a lot of UFO activities. Are they getting something back from doing that?
Well, they're controlling a narrative. There's no doubt about it. They are controlling the narrative. And it's sort of, the crop circles are, I don't want to use the word benevolent, but out of the entire phenomenon, it's the one where people ooh and ah, and they're just kind of blown away by it. I always go back to prophecy, and I go back to the biblical prophetic narrative. Who is the prince of the power of the air? I mean, it's the dragon, it's the fallen cherub, the fallen angel, Satan. It's always, those are his fingerprints. Who is the prince of the power of the air? And that's why he controls that. And once again, it goes back to it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you can go, wow, isn't this an incredible crop circle, and it's beautiful, and there's embedded math in it, and it talks about the equinoxes and the eclipses and all. I mean, it's mind-boggling, some of the advanced geometry that's embedded in the crop circle. On the other hand, it's like, we do this with impunity. We can come and go as we please, and you can't stop us. Mm-hmm. And so far, no one has ever stopped a crop circle.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and they've also interfered with some of our ballistic missile sites, have they not?
Yes, absolutely. You're talking. We actually broke that story in our Watcher series. It was number 10 in the series. We interviewed Robert Salas. Salas now is making the rounds. He's all over the place. We broke the story. We interviewed him, and he's a great guy. He's also an abductee. After what happened was at Maelstrom up in Montana, a 60-foot UFO appeared over the gate. So Robert Salas is down below in operations, and that UFO turned off all 9 intercontinental ballistic missiles, just like that. And so people say, well, see, they're afraid that we're going to blow each other up. That's one interpretation of the data of what we're seeing. The other interpretation is, and once again, I'm drawing from the Guidebook of the Supernatural. I'm going back into the Bible. This will take a minute to set up.
Okay, go ahead.
We know that when Jesus casts out the demons from the man of the tombs, it's Legion. He's possessed by Legion. Mm-hmm. Lots of them are in there. And they go, you don't send us into the abyss. It's not our time. I actually wrote about this in the Cosmic Chess Match. I call that a supernatural clue, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. How do the demons know it's not their time? How do they know that?
Question.
See what I mean? So they're able to see. They're not all knowing, obviously, but somehow time, space for them is different than it is for us. And they know on some level that this isn't what it looks like when they're cast into the abuso. Another proof text would be with Daniel, and the angel says to Daniel, seal this book up, Daniel, until the time of the end. Mm-hmm. And then once again, he gives us a supernatural clue. Men and women will roam to and fro over the face of the earth, knowledge will increase. Well, what do you mean? But that's exactly where we are. Everything is flatlined till Gutenberg's printing press. Mm-hmm. Thousands of years, nothing changes. Gutenberg with the printing press, we get a major blip, because now the common man can read the Bible or other books. Everything changes with Gutenberg. Now you don't have 40 or 50 smelly monks in a scriptorium going line by line with quill pens and ink. You're printing stuff. This opens up everything. So that's our first blip. Now knowledge is increasing. And as we speak, Daniel, men and women are running to and fro over the face of the earth via the airplane. That's exactly what we see. So the words of Daniel's book are unsealed. Question is, how did the angel know that? How did the angel? So we see the good guys know and the bad guys know. So you take that, right? You take that. Is it possible that they're shutting off the intercontinental ballistic missiles, and that they are obsessed with nuclear sites because they know that the trigger for them to reveal themselves is some sort of a nuclear event on the planet? Late David Flynn and I talked about this several times on the phone. I never met him, but we conversed on the telephone. And I said to David, what do you think is going to trigger their presence? And he said, and I agree with him, that there's going to be some sort of a nuclear event on the planet. That's when they'll come down. Now, this is conjecture, and I'm stretching, and I get that. Mm-hmm. But is it possible that the reason why they're obsessed with these so-called nuclear sites is they know that at some point in time, something's going to go off, and that's when they're forced to reveal themselves? I don't know. I don't know how. Mm-hmm. I don't know all the protocols of the war that we see ourselves in. Mm-hmm. But I do find it absolutely interesting that they are obsessed with climate change and the nukes. And I also find it interesting that in the last year, what have we seen from Russia and Ukraine? They're saber rattling with tactical nukes, which we haven't seen in decades.
Interesting. I'm going to put something to you. This is kind of off the beaten trail here, but I got a segue from what you just were talking about when Jesus faced the man that had the demon, and he said, "Well, what is your name?" He said, "Well, my name is Legion, for we are many." And then I had an epiphany the other day, L.A. today's culture, they demand, a lot of people demand to be called they, them as their pronouns. Then all of a sudden it hit me. When you meet somebody that insists on that, when they say or refer to them as they, well, I would, because they probably have multiple demons.
Bingo.
So it would be they. So it is appropriate when those people say, hey, refer to me as they and them. When I'll just simply ask, okay, how many demons do you have? And they'll probably say a lot. So
and that's a really good point. And I agree with you. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. They and them. Give me a break.
Hey, so we got a question from Bear, who gives our Bear report. It says, what are the different crop circles trying to say to us? Now, that's the big question right there. Has anybody got any interpretation, any message been decoded?
There was one, once again, and not the crabwort glyph, but one that came right across from Chill Bolton, and it showed a gray alien, and there was a message embedded, and David Flynn was the one who deciphered that, and I'd have to look at it actually to give it verbatim, but what it's sort of like, what am I looking at here? There's deception is rampant, but truth is still there. Gateway portal is clothing. I mean, it was really strange. Now, when you look at something like that, in a field of wheat, that's advanced geometry. I mean, could you draw that freehand on a piece of paper?
No. Now, some of those, there's crop circles 4 football fields large.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's not going to be a couple guys at night. I would say maybe a basic circle. They could get away with that. But the type of things that we're seeing are just beyond the ability, if anything, I'm aware of. And you were mentioning about the orbs. So do you think that there is a mothership that is carrying out the orders and doing that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. This is the cat and mouse game that we see. Once again, if you look at M. Night Shyamalan's film Signed with Mel Gibson in it, these, of course, and I agree with him. He presents these entities as highly malevolent. Mm-hmm. But the crop circles are beautiful to look at. And when people go into them, like I said earlier, they can have missing time. They can have feelings of euphoria. They can forget where they are. It can be reversed. Instead of euphoria, they can be met with fear. They can also engage entities. Some people have seen entities in the crop circle. So it's all over the map. It's supernatural, in my opinion. These are not extraterrestrials from Zeta Reticuli or Epsilon Eridani doing this. These are, in fact, the fallen ones. They are extra-dimensional, interdimensional entities which are coming here and engaging in this cat and mouse game, which they constantly do. When you see that, and we got Doug and Dave with their goofy stomp stalkers and all this stuff, but that's why we focused on the field of corn. When you look at that, you realize that there's something else going on here. Mm-hmm. And so this is where the fear factor, once again, just like the cattle, it's the same deal. Mm-hmm. So the farmer goes out, he calls his wife, she's freaked out, kids come out, they get freaked out. Helicopter goes over, they take a couple of shots of us, sing this in a local paper. Everybody's scratching their head. Who's doing this and why? Mm-hmm. See where it goes?
Yeah.
No matter how beautiful it is.
Okay, I'm going to play a short clip here. You'll definitely recognize the reporter giving the news, and this is just recent. But I want to play it because I want your opinion on it, and I want your analysis on it. So I'm going to jump out of the picture.
Night on April 30th, skywatchers across several western states saw a bright fireball streak through the heavens. A police officer working in the Northwest Valley caught a glimpse of the colorful object on his body cam. At nearly the same time, a Ring camera in the area recorded a strange noise and what sounds like a crash. One family living in a ranch-style home had a much closer view of the object. 2 brothers and their father were working on a vehicle in their yard when they caught a glimpse of a sparkly object as it came crashing down, then were hit by what they describe as a shock wave. One of the witnesses, a young man named Angel, has stated when the brothers looked into the yard where the object landed, that spot was obscured and blurry, as if by unknown form of camouflage. What they saw next prompted a frantic call to 911.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes,
Okay.
like I can't explain it, and big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Angel says they heard the patter of multiple feet in the yard. They later heard footsteps on their roof. They saw one of the 8-foot-tall creatures climb behind the controls of a large.
Okay, that was classic video, and of course you recognize that voice as George.
George Knapp.
George Knapp, and he was at the Gen 6 conference, of course.
Yes.
But there's several points on this, LA. One, they mentioned that they got up on the roof, and you mentioned the movie Signs, and in the movie Signs, these aliens jumped up on the roof, and then they talk about the blurry part, and as you know David Pilates. He had an interview with a lady in Ohio who was up in a tree stand and saw a predator-like creature. She said it was like blurry in there, and that person there said they were blurry. So we have several connections, and then there was an imprint there left as well. And also he goes on to say that he was paralyzed when he made eye contact. So it seems as if these artifacts of how the behavior of alien species is being told to us, how they act and what they do, but they're not saying why they're here.
I've been following this. First of all, I believe that Angel's telling the truth completely. I'm a student of body language. I watched his video. Guys, kid's not lying, not making this stuff up. Something happened. It's also, and so far no one has put this together. Barry Chamish, who passed away a number of years ago, he wrote a book called The Nephilim Giants, and he lived he was a journalist, reporter in Israel. In the 90s, there was this flap of UFOs with giants. People were seeing giants, very, very similar to like Angel describes, 8, 10 feet, in height, and footprints they were seeing. They weren't human. And Chamish wrote about that. I've talked about it because I remember I met Barry in 1999 when my book came out. His book had just come out, and I went down to a MUFON meeting and walked in and showed him my book, and we struck a friendship there. I also met Dr. Roger Lear there for the first time with the implants. So there's definitely a connection. What we see in Vegas already happened in Israel decades ago. Same type of appearances, same type of phenomena, same type of landing, and the giants. Look, a 9 or 10 foot individual, that's a giant. 10 feet tall, are you kidding me? You don't want to see that. And they do have the ability to cloak themselves. There's no doubt about that either. The ships also can cloak themselves. So, we've known about this. That is an encounter. And it makes me wonder where, this thing is ramping up, Daniel. I mean, it really is.
It is.
It ain't going away. And, which is, I've got marching orders from the Lord to get the last 3 films out, the Academy Mutilation one, Roswell, and then what does it all mean? Basically, what is the truth before the end of the year? So we're working feverishly to get so we'll have 8 films in the series right now. That's what we'll have by the end of the year. And I hope to get the Academy Mutilation film out end of July, something like that. I mean, we'll see where it goes. But people, what's amazing, patting myself on the back, what differentiates our films from any other films out there, first of all, we have 5 films in the series. Every single one of them comes from a Christian perspective, every single one of the films. At the very end, I weigh in and I put a bow on what you've just seen. And that bow is from the biblical prophetic narrative. It's a Christian bow. It tells us that there's nothing to fear. Jesus warned us of all this. It'd be like the days of Noah when he returned. Jesus warned us that no one from fear was coming upon the earth. He also says, don't let anyone deceive you. Paul says Satan comes with all signs of lying wonders. Well, we're here. We're in it. And this is why I also found something really interesting. And Angel said after they had the encounter, they went in and prayed. So bully for them. And that's what we need to do. Prayer is our offensive weapon. And if, once again, we shouldn't be afraid of what we're going on. Look, and you were there at the 2019 conference, with the UFO conference up at,
Branson.
in Branson. And at the very end, I had the audience stand up and say, "We will not be deceived. I will not be deceived," because they had spent the last hour and a half, unpacking, if I can use that word, all of this information, saying that this is not a benevolent thing. This is the end game of the dragon. It's the end game of the dragon. And that's why, we're making the films and getting them out.
I would say that people need to be prepared. If they're not prepared to get into some of these topics and get some of this understanding, if they're still dealing with the milk of the word, then they need not be hitting into the meat, because you're talking about some serious meat here of understanding of universal proportions. By the way, we have a poll. We always have a poll question that relates to tonight's topic, and tonight's poll question are: what are crop circles? And the choices for the viewers are alien messages, demonic language, people-made hoax, orb-created natural phenomena, or swamp gas. I bet that's going to be number one, but let's just see what the results are, LA. All right, right now, 44% says alien messages, 21% says demonic language, and then 14% says people-made hoax. Well, that may change here as we continue with our questioning. And here's another question just come in. It says, LA, are there any crop circles that keep repeating themselves as if they want us to be sure we're getting the message?
That's a really good question, and I don't have that information. I'd have to make some phone calls on that one, and because people have studied this phenomenon literally for decades, and while our film, I think, talks about it and why it's important and the convergence, but it's not like all things crop circles. It's only an hour long. I mean, you could spend years. We talked a little bit about the way the stalks are bent, not broken. We talked a little bit about the way the seeds from the crop that's in the crop circle germinate quicker and also yield more grain than the seeds outside the crop circle. So we touch on that, but you can do a deep dive. You can do an hour show just on that. And I would lean towards, yes, there are probably repeated messages, but I don't know what they are, and I'll try to do something on that.
But let's just think about that though. If we can't decipher that message, even with our D-wave quantum computers, isn't their messaging futile, or are those messages being received by a certain elite group controlling this planet anyway?
Could be the latter. I would lean towards the latter.
Hey, LA, you did a recent, I guess it was recent with John D'Souza.
Yes.
And I got to hand it to you, man. That interview right there was one of the most intriguing interviews I've ever heard and especially from a firsthand credible source. That's the most credible source. That's it. And the most credible, I'll get my pointing right here. That way, there it is. That's the most credible firsthand experience I've heard since Chase Klosky's report of a firsthand experience when she met aliens. And again, that was in I think Jen's conference. She talked about actually her and her crew saw a 4-foot alien right there in the field. But his account, how did you feel about that account? I mean, it was so amazing.
You're talking about the account when he's in the house with his parents.
Yeah, and he's
it's classic abduction. Except he wasn't switched off for whatever reason. Now John says that I became born again, let's say 20 years later. So that's why they couldn't take me, which is a really good, once again, I mean, that's sort of a supernatural,
well, didn't the Bible say that God knows who's his own? I mean, he knows us from before we're even in the womb, which that's a conversation I'd like to have with you. But God would know who's his are, whether
that's why they couldn't take him. But then the other side of that coin, unfortunately, is someone like Karen in our fourth film, which is on the abduction phenomena. Karen was taken from the time she was a little girl. I mean, how does that work? The fourth film in our UFO series is on abductions, and she was taken from the time she was 6 years old, and then she was impregnated by them 3 different times. And then they come in the middle of the night and they re-abduct her when she's pregnant and take the baby in the 3rd month of pregnancy. And when she goes to the OBGYN in emergency, the next morning, no fetal tissue. It's all gone. It's like she was never pregnant. but she saw the heartbeat and she knows she was pregnant. And her OBGYN, they saw it. They knew that she was pregnant. That's, this is, so why, it's, you got John's testimony, but you also got Karen's testimony.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not this, you just can't whitewash everything. It's more complex than that.
Yeah, I had a lady on the show here that was impregnated, and she gave the story very convincing. And she said, and you know why I know that I was abduction? She said, because I'm a lesbian. So she says, wow. And I got pregnant, and my girlfriend was not happy about that.
Yeah. Wow.
So, so that was interesting. All right. Believe says, LA, what do you think they're doing with the chemtrails?
That's a really interesting question. The year of the fire, 2018, they sprayed in the Santa Monica Mountains every day. I'd walk out in the morning at 8:00 in the morning. The sky would be perfectly blue. By noon, it would be all white hazy, because when they spray, and people need to wake up. These are not contrails. I mean, contrails evaporate. This is a stream. And then you see it dissipate, and they crisscross. And by noon or a couple of hours later, the entire blue sky turns a milky white, a milky grayish white. Mm-hmm. And they were spraying like that up in the Santa Monica Mountains here all summer long. And then we had the worst fire in years. We had sustained winds of 75 miles an hour. The fire captain who saw the fire said in all of his years, he was retired. Mm-hmm. His 35 years of duty, he'd never seen a fire like that ever. Mm-hmm. And they were told, all the fire guys were told to go to Zuma Beach, stand down. You can't fight this. Not with 75 miles an hour.
Did you build fireproof into your house?
Yeah, we have the build is called Giga, Giga, Gigacrete. They're based out of Vegas. It's an incredible system. There's no wood in it at all. Basically, it's steel studs with rigid panels of foam. It's amazing. It cuts out 4 or 5 trades. It goes up very quickly. We love it. Absolutely love it. It stays cool in the summer and warm in the winter. It's amazing. Gigacrete.com.
What was that? Give it to me again.
Giga, Giga, Gigacrete.com, and tell them LA sent you.
Oh, okay. Did you see the video of Quebec from it was somebody was looking at weather and cloud movement, and all of a sudden they show in a vast open area of Quebec big massive plumes all at the same time of fires. Some people suggest it's directed energy weapons. It's certainly in a bunch of liberal kooks running around, because I don't think they can get that coordinated. But I do know that there are kooks out there starting fires. In addition, do you think that was done from space intentionally, or is it climate change?
And I've looked at the energy weapons, so-called energy weapons from space. And again, I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the resources. I'm focused. I kind of stay in my lane. Mm-hmm. So I'm not really researching that per se, mm-hmm. but nothing would surprise me, because we're at the point, Daniel, where you can't fix this anymore. I mean, we are living in a modern day representation of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh,
that's where we are.
You got that right.
And I can barely look at the websites anymore, because there's soft pornography everywhere you look. Mm-hmm. Everywhere you look, mm-hmm. from Fox News to CNN to the Gateway Pundit, it's everywhere. Soft porn is absolutely everywhere, and then you get all these crazy stories, and you sit there and you go, this isn't the planet that I grew up with. It's just not.
So I suppose you didn't go to the LA Dodgers game the other night. You didn't go to that? I thought you wanted to celebrate, LA. I thought you were going to celebrate.
Yeah, whoa. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. So, it's just amazing why are we celebrating this? Why do these people dictate to the rest of us what we're supposed to think? And if you say something against it, you're a bigot. Mm-hmm. I just love that. It's always name calling. You're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, you're an Islamophobe, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist. Well, wait a minute. How about we just sit down and talk? Quit labeling me, because you have no idea who I am or what I'm about. Just because I disagree with you, stop labeling me with these ridiculous labels, because I'm not. But I do take umbrage with the fact that our schools are pushing the whole transgender ideology on first graders. What does a first grader know about anything?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
nothing. And we're pushing this ideology? Give me a break.
That seems like that goes directly to the Old Testament, where it's talking about Moloch and casting their children into the fire. This is the same kind of thing. They're not. It's not the fire, but it's the fire of insanity is what they're getting thrown, and the fire of body mutilation and psychological warfare on these kids is the same thing. I'm thinking it's the same demon on that. And I have a question from Susan, the wife. She wanted me to relay this to you. And she want to talk about what's your idea about geographical demons? How they're assigned to different territories.
Absolutely. We were just at a conference. I spoke at Calvary Riverbend Church in Missouri, and it was a great conference. And I want to thank Pastor Steve and Christine for having us there. And of course, John Fryer and Sherry were responsible and helped getting that set up. And Heather and Dawn, we just had some great fellowship with these people. But there's a territorial spirit over there. It's like an hour away from Cahokia. Give me a break,
mm-hmm.
right? I mean, there's a territorial spirit there that has never been deposed. Daniel, I was under attack the entire time I was there. The entire time I was there, I was under attack. And, I'm not boasting, but do I know how to handle that? Well, yes and no. I don't like to have to handle that. No one likes it. Mm-hmm. Unwanted thoughts bombarding you. And they're always fear-based and they're always from the enemy, from a dragon, because that's how he travels. And, you got to put on the armor of God and you got to recite scripture and push it back. It's got to push back the darkness. Mm-hmm. But I spoke Friday night for like 2.5 hours and then basically all day Saturday. So it was a really good conference.
And what town was that?
This was Riverbend Calvary Chapel.
In Missouri?
In Missouri.
So it's Riverbend, Missouri?
Yeah.
How close is that to Branson?
Not that close. It's closer to St. Louis.
Okay. Well, here's
this
is interesting too, because you mentioned Missouri, because we've been to Branson many times. We're going again, and we already been there, but we're going again. But we like it because we feel like territorially there is a good spirit over that town. It's patriotic. It's Christian. We didn't see a rainbow nowhere the last time we were there. But before we get there, we got to drive through eastern Missouri, and coming through some of those places, man, the heaviness is palatable. You can feel the heaviness. It's like a darkness, and it's like we're trying to get through it, and it's a whole section of that area, and that's why we wanted to ask you the question about. And you're just confirming really that there is a spirit on that, at least the east part, and probably up at the St. Louis area too.
When I was in Fatima, filming the Fatima series, there's 2 films in that. I was hit with a territorial spirit, which I've never come up against. It was a principality that is ancient, this ancient principality. And it didn't like the fact that, Elmer Fudd, Elliot Marzulli, was making 2 films on the Fatima apparitions, because that goddess is still being worshipped there today. And that principality has never been deposed. Daniel, I got hit with something that I just hope I never experience anything like that again. It was visceral. It was very, very difficult, but I got through it. By the grace of God.
Okay, got another question coming for you. It says, is there any place in the world that doesn't have crop circles?
That's a really good question. Not so many in South America, not so many in Africa. A lot of them are centered definitely in England and the UK, but we get some here. But the UK is sort of like crop circle central, and that makes you wonder why. Why are they there?
Well, they have a lot of megaliths there, don't they?
They do. Stonehenge is there, and all the other megaliths, and the lines and all this other stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's like in the film, we call the film, Crop Circle, Secret Language of a Dragon, but the subtitle of that could be Convergence, because it is a convergence. What we're seeing is the crop circles are very close to these ancient megalithic sites, which in my wheelhouse, in my opinion, it's the same guys who created these ancient megalithic sites. This is their signature. This is their language. They're signing their name. It's like an autograph. We're back. Here we are.
I was just thinking, we were talking about the movie Signs, and we showed the guy, Angel, was talking about these giants. And in the movie Signs, there's a funny part where the one guy says, talking about the creature that was walking on his roof, he said, well, apart from the possibility that it's a 10-foot Scandinavian female high jumper on a roof. What else could it be? And so we would have that, but that's funny. But it's funny because in reality, if you were to tell most people, "Hey, man, I think there was a giant alien on my roof," they said, "Well, maybe it was a Scandinavian high jumper. Man, they can jump 10 feet in the air." You know, they give that kind of swamp gas answer, and we're so far beyond that. I mean, disclosure's already here. It's just the measure of it and what we're getting from it and how prepared we are for it. And speaking of that, we got a question for you. It says, "L.A. Is there any connection between the crop circles and the Lady of Fatima?"
Well, other than what we're looking at as a territorial spirit which governs the area, I would say no. Lady of Fatima, and this is why our two films are so important, because we showed in those films, that this was not what people saw. People in the field, and this goes back to the handwritten documents from Father Fiera. So in 1917, when this thing was manifesting in the field, only 3 kids could see it. Lucia was 10, Francisco was 9, and Jacinta was 7. So Lucia and Jacinta could hear and see the apparition, but Francisco could only see her. Nobody else saw. But people saw flying hats in the sky. What the heck is a flying hat? And we show this in Strange Phenomena, the second film in the series. We sit down with a seminologist, a professor of seminology, Jose Machado, who got to examine the 12 photographs taken from 1917, October 13th, 1917. So Joshua Benolio, the photographer, is out in the field, and he's got those old box cameras with the glass plates. He takes 12 photographs. One of the photographs shows a disc-like object directly over the apparition site, directly over. And in the film, we grind this guy. Are you sure it's not a scratch? Are you sure it's not a chemical burn? No. Jose stakes his reputation. Whatever this object is, it's intrinsic in the film. And it's kind of like this, just about what you're looking at, way in the back, about like that. And it's right, just about what it looks like. So it's kind of a little blurry, and there's not a lot of shape to it, just like there's not a lot of shape if I do this. What am I looking at here? But that's what it looks like. But it's a disc. And our film is the only film on the planet that's ever talked about it. And it was in the Fatima archives for almost 100 years. No one had ever looked at it. Nobody had ever examined the plate. Jose sees it. He comes to us. We publish it. It's in the film. And it's like, well, GLA, it's really not a very clear picture. It looks just like this. I mean, it's almost exactly like this.
That's a pretty handy object to explain stuff, man. It makes sense to me. Yeah, you're obviously a groundbreaker there. Look at that. I found this on Wikipedia, and I believe it's in one of your movies. Is this the first evidence of a crop circle?
Yeah, that's the first one. They call it the mowing devil in the 17th century. And when the townspeople came out, they saw the crop circle, and they immediately said, well, this looks like the handiwork of the dragon. And I think they got it right. So there you go.
Speaking of that, let's go back in time in the East Coast. Were there really witches back in the day in Salem?
Well, there's witches here.
For sure.
I'll tell you a story in California. So I'm aware this goes back to circa 2003 or 4, something like that. I'm the worship leader. I'm the music director at the Malibu Vineyard. So I get to the church really early. I open everything up, turn on the lights, hit the air conditioner, run the sound system, get everything ready, because that's what I have to do, part of my job. So the Malibu Vineyard had 2 entrances, one from the top parking lot, one from the bottom. I always went in from the bottom parking lot, because that way I'm at ground level, I'm carrying instruments, blah, blah, blah. And there was like a portico, which went like this, a covered walkway. And there's the front door, double doors that open up like this. So I'm walking towards the double doors. I got my key in my hand. And in front of me, right by the door, is a circle with a pentagram in it. Candles are still burning. And in the center of the pentagram is a slaughtered dove.
Wow.
There was a ritual done on the steps of the Malibu Vineyard, and 3 months later, that church split up, and it was one of the worst splits I've ever seen. The pastor died 2 years later. The head elder died of a massive heart attack in Hawaii 6 months after the event, maybe even less than that. 3,000 people were displaced, and they lost the building. Mm. Witches are real. Covens are real. Ceremonies are real. Blood sacrifice are real. High places are real. The enemy knows exactly what he does. And unfortunately, pastors come in and they don't know anything about spiritual warfare. And they just think that, well, we have Jesus, we're going to, and that's what the staffs, when I reported this on Monday morning was our staff meetings, the other staff members, I won't mention names, they all laughed. Oh, we're protected by the Lord. And knowing what I know now, I would have gotten everybody's face and said, you are being ignorant and arrogant. Yes, we're protected, but we just had a ritual that was done on the front steps of this church. We need to circle the wagons, pray against this thing, and break the power. That never happened. 3 months later, church split. You tell me.
That kind of reminds me of I got a little history there. I got kicked out of a church, and let me tell you this story here. So, hey, what do you mean you got kicked out of church? What kind of rabble rouse? I am kind of that way, but so I was going to a church, big one, and the pastor was talked in by the assistant pastor. He was talked into taking a sabbatical because people's problems was wearing down on him, and the assistant pastor said, "I'll take over, while you're gone, and everything be cool." Well, so the pastor went on a sabbatical. The assistant pastor fired the whole worship team, and then he had people try out to get back on a new one, and he got somebody from another state. And so I noticed that people started disappearing from the pews. I thought, where's this person? Where's that person? And so I did this little sneaky thing, LA. This is great. I got a P.O. box, and I made an anonymous letter. I said, what do you think about this church, our church? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that? Are you happy? You like the new worship team, you like how thing. And then all of a sudden in my anonymous P.O. box, hundreds of letters came back saying, what's going on in this church? Where's my friends? They're gone, and all this. So I thought, well, I'll just tell a friend, assistant to the assistant pastor, that there's something really wrong with this church. And I told him, and then of course he was the guy's bud. So they called me in there. They called me up and said, Daniel, we want you to come down to this church. And they said, you don't ever come back to this church ever again. And I told that pastor, or the assistant pastor, I looked him in the eye and said, you are not in control of this church. Jesus is. And the reason I tell you that story is because the pastor ended up killing himself. The assistant pastor's son hanged himself and got on drugs. The pastor and then the assistant pastor was doing some adulterous thing going on. The church just blew apart. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Wow. And so I didn't put up with it really. So yeah, I wear it as a badge of honor.
Wow. Boy, you just can't mess with stuff like that. Wow.
Well, there are territorial spirits, and I think we got to pray against them. And how do you protect yourself? You like I said earlier, for people that are still in milk of the word, these kinds of subjects, and if you see a UFO, are you prepared? If you see a 8-foot bug-eyed creature stalking in your yard, are you going to get your camera out? Or are you going to use, are you prepared and what to do? Because like Angel and like some of the people you've talked to, we have to have an answer, and we should be prepared rather than scrambling around. Who do I call? Well, you need to call Jesus ahead of time, and the Holy Spirit say, give me some armor, give me some knowledge with the word, and sharpen my sword so that I can handle in the day of these events.
A couple of things. The rebuke first, ask questions later. If we see something that's supernatural, rebuke first, ask questions later. Don't sit there and entertain it. Don't get your camera out. Rebuke first, ask questions later. I put on the armor of God 2, 3, 5 times a day. It depends on what's going on, where I am. I recite scripture every night when the Lord wakes me up. It can vary. It can be at midnight. It can be at 3 a.m. It can be at 5 a.m. But I lay in my bed and I just go through all the scripture. And he's always leading me to a new scripture to memorize. And when we put on the armor of God, the sword of the Spirit is the word of God. And so when we take that sword out and we begin to wash our minds with the word, that changes the atmosphere. We're putting on the armor of God. We're putting on the helmet of salvation. And I've added to this: take the helmet of salvation, and we take the blood of a lamb and mark the threshold to my mind and the doorpost to my mind with the blood of a lamb. Nothing comes through here. Everything is checked. I put on the breastplate of righteousness, Jehovah Sitkanu, you are my righteousness. I take the belt of truth, you are the way, the truth, and the life. You circle me. Your life circles mine. My feet are shod with the gospel of peace. Everywhere I go, not my peace, but his peace follows me, goes before me, stays after me. I take up the shield of faith. He's the author and the finisher of my faith, of your faith. And then finally, I take the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, alive and active and sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates between soul and spirit. It judges, or joints and marrow. It judges the thoughts and intentions of the heart. And I mean, I have to walk in that, Daniel. Mm-hmm. I have no other choice. No, I do. Mm-hmm. I walk in that daily because of what I do. Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Well, L.A., you describe yourself inappropriately so as a supernaturalist. I consider myself a fellow supernaturalist, and hopefully people watching the program are supernaturalists. That is, there's a whole lot more than the mundane world that we're dealing with here. And it can, and I think you even said in one of your videos that we all are subject to something that's going to happen to us. We're going to see an event. It's going to come to us one way or another. Now, whether or not we recognize it, because if we don't, we could be damaged by it. And I'm giving an example of how a supernaturalist would think. And I'll use this example of myself. And that is, a few weeks ago, a neighbor ran into our fence and it broke it down in a certain area. And then not 2 days, 3 days later, a friend of ours' fence was broken down, about the same size. And then we were reading it in Ezekiel, and it was talking about a broken down fence. And I thought, all of a sudden, the supernaturalist in me said, "Wait a minute, this isn't a fence that's being broke down. This is a breach in our spiritual life. There's a perimeter breach somewhere." And so I took that as the motivation to pray against that. That if there is something that has breached our border, our fenced area around, that we need to cut it off. We need to expose it. We need it to have fiery cherubs guarding with a sword there at that breach. Because so in the natural, it looked like that. But I'm just saying, people need to realize that you may be getting signs that of the supernatural things going around you, and you've got to take action.
Well said. Well said. Be on guard, because the devil, your adversary, roams like a roaring lion, but greater is he that is in us, the Spirit of the living God, than he that is in the living world.
All right. Got a couple more questions real quick. Are most crop circles on ley lines?
Some of them are, many of them are, especially in the UK. Absolutely. The crop circle that we feature in the film, the one near Chillicothe, right across from the mounds. Convergence.
Mm-hmm. In one of your films, you mentioned something about you would like to know what the unified theory is, but you didn't really suggest what you think what they might be, to bring at least some of this together. Are we always going to be as sort of a research mode, or you think that we're getting near a revelation on the matter?
No, I think the revelation is here, that these entities, they move with impunity. It's a complex system. It ties right back into the Genesis 3:15 seed war, because that's what we're looking at. Seal up the words of his book, Daniel 2:43, that their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. The word cleave is the one that we get for marriage, where a man leaves his father and mother, cleaves to his wife. There's no marriage contract. They are creating hybrids. This is it. We are in Genesis 3:15 on steroids. It's the days of Noah on steroids. This is the coming great deception. When they show up, the so-called benevolent space brothers, will tell us that they seeded all life on this planet, that they genetically manipulated early man. They started the world's civilizations. They started the world's religions. Now at this critical time in human history, they, our space brothers, have come back to usher mankind into a global time of peace and prosperity and a golden age. Nonsense. We know who you are, and we're not buying it for a New York minute. We're not buying it. This is the coming great deception.
There's been remarkable advances in AI. Are humans downloading AI code from they?
This is very dangerous. It's another reason why you can't fix this anymore, because this is, what was it over the weekend? They were talking about that now they've created an embryo without sperm or without egg. Well, how's that working? People, they're playing God. Yeah, this is why he has to return soon. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a story. There's how much time do we have left?
About 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay. There's a I need to text my wife. I didn't know so it's an hour and a half, right? So yeah, okay. Let me just text her so she knows.
Okay.
Because she wasn't aware of that.
Oh, tell her to watch.
Yeah, we're supposed to go out for dinner.
I'm sorry, LA.
No worries. So tell Sarah. Okay. Done. So where was I? So I do my show called Supernatural Confrontations, and guests come on, and it's a platform for the average guy or gal, couple, whatever, to tell their story, because people have had supernatural confrontations, and so all that's good. And wife just went back, seriously? Yes, honey, seriously. And so they live on a 5-acre farm, and it's fenced in, and they've got dogs, so nobody ever comes to the front door. So Melissa, the wife, is down in the kitchen with the kids. Knock on the front door. She immediately runs up and gets David, her husband. Somebody's on the deck. Somebody's at the front door. She's freaked out. David runs down, goes out. There's a young guy there, maybe 25, 30 years old. He's got jeans on and a checkered shirt. He's got a little plastic bag from Walmart tied to his waist. Who knows what that is? And he goes, "Can I help you?" And the guy goes, "Yeah. I'm walking to Chattanooga." Well, Chattanooga is a 5-hour drive from where Dave and Melissa live. So the guy goes, "Wow, why don't you come in? I'll give you some food or water, or can I?" And the guy goes, "No, I'm good. The Lord just told me to stop by and tell you something." The guy goes like, "Okay." Wow. Never seen this guy before. No idea who he is. He's got dogs. He's at the front door. Well, what was the message? Well, the Lord knows that you've been praying and asking the Lord, when his return's going to be. And this man said, "The Lord told me to tell you sooner than you think." So David runs back into the house, tells Melissa, "This is what this guy just said." He goes back on the deck. Guy's not there anymore. He runs down the end of his driveway. He can see a half a mile in both directions. Guy's not there. He goes, "LA, what do you think that was?" And I said, "David, I know exactly what that was. That was an angelic visitation. That was and I've been spreading that message sooner than you think, specifically in terms of the rapture of the church, because that's what David and Melissa have been praying. Lord, how soon before we go up? Because we're now living in Sodom and Gomorrah. How soon before we go up? And the angel said to David, "Sooner than you think." Now, that's not a date,
right?
But that's a neat word of encouragement.
So let me give you a little addendum, because you talk about the mysterious disappearing person of the church event that I described to you, where I got kicked out and threatened with being arrested. The next week, a stranger comes to that church. I know this because I was told I still had friends there, and they told me what was going on. But the stranger came in, and he was stand up in the middle of the service, and he starts praising God. And the assistant pastor, the one who hatched this plan to take over the church, well, he told the head pastor he was crazy, he needed to go. He says, "You need to be quiet." And the guy's just praising God. So he had his guys come down and was dragging him out of the church. And then another friend of mine says, "Well, you can't drag people out that worship different than us." And then the pastor says, "You get out of the church." And then another couple said, "You can't throw him out of church. He founded, he's one of the founders." And then the pastor said, that assistant pastor says, "You get out of the church." Kicked out 3 couples of that church. And so the guy that founded the church goes out to the parking lot, and this guy was parked right next to him in a truck. And he had a map on his dash. And he said, "Well," he goes, "Why are you here?" He goes, "I was sent here." He said, "Why were you sent here?" He said, God sent me here to be a lightning rod to expose this church. And that's what I do.
Wow.
Just happen to be parked right next to him. I mean, it is phenomenal stuff.
Wow. I love stories like that. I really do.
Yeah.
You know,
God is real, LA, and that's what we're talking about here.
yeah, he is. And, it's an honor to serve him. And, hand on the plow and off we go. I mean, that's just, that's it every day.
All right. We've got another question for you from our moderator. Do you believe shows like the Skinwalker Ranch series are preparing the masses for disclosure?
Absolutely. All day long. Ancient Aliens has done a great job of that for the last 15 years, whatever it is now. Who knows? Every Friday night, Ancient Aliens, ancient astronaut theorists say, well, they're right, but right. Who are they really?
Right.
So
right.
I mean, right. And I've been they sometimes they follow me around, but like with the elongated skulls that we did, we broke that story. Well, Brian Forrester broke the story, but we went down and we interviewed Brian, and that was Watchers 6, The Secret Cosmic War. And we were the only Christian team ever to take DNA from that guy right back there. And the DNA showed.
Love that guy.
Yeah. The DNA showed us that it was, they originated from the Levant, from the Middle East, and that rewrites history.
Well, Ellie, doesn't finding these things out actually strengthen your faith?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I'm a musician. My whole life was geared in music. I mean, when I came out to LA, I was still with the Guru. I was writing and composing and arranging original compositions for a 56-piece orchestra.
Wow.
Okay.
Look at that.
Longhand scoring. This is like circa 1972, 1973, right? From 69 to like 73. So I'm there for like 4 years with the Guru's orchestra, and I'm writing and arranging big band charts and all this stuff. And after the orchestra broke up, I had a rock band. We played every club in Los Angeles. We had producers, we had managers. We were in and out of studios. We were always recording, and we always came that close to getting the record deal, but never got it. And then I became a Christian when I was 30 years old, and I became a worship leader, and all I wanted to do is become a Christian recording artist, and that never happened. For the last 30 years, the Lord has been taking me like this and moving me from what I thought I wanted to do to what he created me for. And so here I am. I'll be 73 this year. So yeah, I can't even believe it either. So, but I'm firing on all 10 cylinders, and there's only 8. So the other 2 are, Holy Spirit doing stuff. And I never thought I'd be a filmmaker. Now we have 13 books, 25 films. I partnered up with Gil Zimmerman, who worked at DreamWorks and Disney for 30 years and left because of what was going on there. He couldn't stand it any longer. And Gil and I have worked on 4 of the UFO films together. We filmed the Academy Mutilation film and the Roswell film together. And now we've got our new sound man, Jim Peterson. So the 3 of us go out, all born again, spirit filled, and we'll be going to Parts Unknown here in July and also filming. So we're on the trail, and we're going to get these last 3 films out before the end of the year.
So, Derek Gilbert moved to Crane, Missouri. I believe he said he had signs, confirmations. Just recently, Josh Peck, he's moving from Skywatch TV, going to Illinois, and he said he got signs and confirmations. Did you have signs and confirmations go back to California?
You really want to hear the story?
Yeah, that's why I got you on the show, man.
Okay, here we go.
Let's hear it.
So I'm a brand new Christian 43 years ago.
Okay.
And I have my first and only spec house. I'm a carpenter, but I'm a builder, I'm a contractor. I have my first and only spec house on the market. It's 1980. And, Jimmy Carter's president, interest rates are 21%. Nothing's moving, nothing's selling. And I'm now 2 or 3 months behind in my rent. My landlord is the guy who used to own this property that we later bought. And that's part of the story. And so I say, Mark, how about if I do some landscaping for you and work off what I owe you? He goes, great idea, because there was no landscaping, just a pile of dirt. So I'm getting all this river rock in, and I'm creating these circles with the river rock, and I'm stacking the river rock, and I'm on my hands and knees doing this. And Holy Spirit taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "You're doing this for yourself. The land is yours. You're doing this for yourself. The land is yours." I go, "Lord, how can that possibly be?" He says it one more time. 7 years, and I wasn't married at the time. Yeah, did he just say that? So 3.5 years later, I marry my wife. And 3.5 years later, after that, we close escrow on the property. We buy it. So now it's 2018, and the fire happens. We lose everything, completely wiped out. My library of like 1,000 or 1,500 books gone, completely gone. And that's, for me, that was a huge loss. And so we moved to Oklahoma. We had PTSD. We bought a beautiful home there. My brother helped us purchase it. Lots of people gave us donations, and which enabled us, because we're underinsured, completely underinsured, and didn't know it. I never wanted to see the property again. So I'm down in Peru with Tim Alberino when we're filming down there. Mm-hmm. And I get a call from FEMA on my cell phone, and, "Hey, we're scraping your property." And it was very emotional. So I go back and I land in Oklahoma. My wife and I have to fly back to the property. We're meeting with FEMA, lawyers, a friend of mine who became a good friend of mine, Dale Kessler, who's the engineer, who was offering, "Hey, I'll help you with the drawings and we can do this thing if you want." "No, Dale, I'm not going to rebuild them. Never really want to see the property again. I just lost everything." But I'm homesick. And I don't realize I'm homesick, but I'm homesick because I've lived here since 1978. Mm-hmm. So it's, 45 years on the property. And so all these people here, lawyers and my good friend Benarbi's here. And just all these people here. And my wife is here with our daughter, Sarah. And so they go out for lunch, and eventually people leave and I'm all alone on the property. So I'm up where the upper deck used to be, which is just all scrape. It's just dirt. And I wander down, melancholy. It's sort of the dusk of evening. And I'm now at that circle of rock, which is still there. And even though most of it's gone today, but there was vestiges of it, mm-hmm. because FEMA scraped the property.
Right. And
so some of it was scraped, but some of it was there. And the Holy Spirit speaks to me and goes, "Pick up a stone." And I kind of go like, "What?" So I pick up a stone and he goes, "That's your Ebenezer. It's your promised stone. The land is yours." Oh. And I told my wife, and she didn't want anything to do with it. And so a couple of months go by, and I bought an old drafting table. I bought a draftsman's drafting machine. I'm drawing up the plans for the house because we're going to do this. I just got marching orders. We're at the airport. If I had my cell phone, I could show it to you. Mm-hmm. But we're at the airport, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I don't believe it." And I go, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "Look at that." And there's a sign. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the story, and I'm going to pick up my computer, and I'm going to show you the sign.
Yeah, great.
Because we blew it up. So she goes, "I don't believe this," and she immediately takes a picture of it. And we blew up the picture, and it's hanging in my studio here. Wow. And it says, "Dear L.A. Dear L.A., the land is yours, Santa Monica Mountains."
No.
Hold on. I'll show it to you. Hold on.
Oh, we got to see this.
Oh, yeah. Here's the studio.
Okay.
There's my edit desk.
Oh.
Computer's off. This is where I do all the editing.
Wow.
You're looking at the studio here.
Right. Nice.
And there's the green screen. There's actually 3 sets. You got the green screen. You've got the big monitor there. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the main set here. And then here you've got where I do and compose all the music for the films.
Nice.
And there is the sign.
Look at that. Outstanding.
Right?
Wow. That's better. Right? That's better. See, I've been looking for a text message from the Lord, but you got a written. Wow.
I mean, it was absolutely. We just sat there and laughed because Los Angeles is not L.A. No. It's L.A.
Yeah.
And for some reason, somebody made a mistake in the sign. Thank you very much.
Wow.
So awesome. Yeah. I mean, it was just, and I, when the Lord when the Lord gave me the Ebenezer stone, it's sitting on my piano now. And it's just to remind me of that, to remind me that he's in control.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on. And it's all
Wow,
great.
LA, man. Thank you for sharing that, man. This is worth the whole interview to get to that part right there. That's outstanding. So I guess you got your message. See, I've been, I say, God, if you want me to go here or move here or do this or that, so I'm, well, I haven't heard from him. Well, maybe he sent me a text message. Maybe I missed an email from him. I'm trying.
Yeah, right.
Everybody seems like they're getting messages. Of course, I guess no message means just stay where you're at and do what you're doing. I don't know. But see, I would have had a studio like yours, but this is not a green screen. This is a green wall. I decided to paint this whole studio green with white trim. I mean, it looks really nice. And I have a blue room. I have a green room. I have an orange room. I have a yellow room because I like colors, and I feel like colors boost your psyche. And so it's just, the whole thing is just green, man. But hey, you want to sing a song? I might have to jam with you if I ever get out to California.
You're always welcome here. You know that.
Oh man. Hey, it's been a great time with you, LA. Let's talk about how people can get some of your products and some of your creations.
Great. Thank you, Daniel. LAMarzulli.net, LAMarzulli.net. Our YouTube is LA Marzulli. We're just hovering right under 200,000 subscribers.
Nice.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. And then our streaming site, so you can watch all the videos without, you can go to the site and you can order the DVDs. You can go to our streaming site and have instant gratification. Streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net. And, you can avail yourself of, look, there's 25 films, 13 books. It's a lot of material.
It is. It is. And I gave you at the beginning all the stacks that we have, man, of LA material. Maybe that's why, hey, I got to say, in part of the strength of my faith is coming through some of your writings there, LA. So you just never know, but the effect that you have.
Praise the Lord. Amen.
Okay. All right. Hey, well, we'll get this thing edited and uploaded, and I'll send you some links. And LA, I appreciate you so much. Again, my fellow supernaturalist, tell your wife how much I appreciate her letting us have you and interrupt your dinner. She's probably thinking, man, come on, is it over yet? But tell her, tell Peggy our thanks, okay?
I will. Thanks, Daniel. Great to see you. God bless you, sir.
See you. All right. Bye-bye.